Hey, what's going on, guys? New knife review for you today. This has been a long expected review from a lot of people wanting to see more of the cheaper international knives. Of course, the Sanrenmu series of knives are extremely popular. Now, of course, there's a lot of talk about these. These are the Enlan knives. Just to get this out of the way real quick, Enlan knives can be marked Enlan. They can be marked Enlan B, B-E-E, or in this case, they're marked just B. All right, they're all three of the same company. And to further complicate things for you, it is not completely confirmed, but definitely suggested that the company Enlan is actually a subsidiary company owned by Sanrenmu. So the fact that this is a fantastic knife, and it certainly is a great bargain, it's no surprise. Okay, so basically, people are saying that Sanrenmu is the actual company in China that's making these knives. Now, to give you an idea on the quality, of course, you see countless reviews on different Sanrenmu knives, and everyone basically says, yeah, they have their faults here and there, but for the money, you can't beat it, right? Across the board. I don't see anyone arguing that fact, right? The quality is so much so that Sal Glesser, the owner and CEO of Spyderco Knives, has even admitted himself on the forums that he has had Sanrenmu make knives for Spyderco. So a couple of those knives are made by Sanrenmu, although he didn't comment exactly on what specific models. I'm actually going to link you to that Blade Forums conversation where Sal had posted that. So it's confirmed proof that some Spyderco knives are made by Sanrenmu. Of course, you can't confirm exactly which ones. Of course, they're going to be the cheaper international series. It's suspected that maybe the Tenacious, line, those series of knives may be made by them. But regardless, the whole point of me telling you that is that this is quality. And Sal has very, very strict guidelines as to what he wants. And he will not have a company make a poor product and put his name on it. So it speaks highly of the company in general on their quality. Now, the other thing people have mentioned is although these are super cheap and they are fantastic bargains, because they're cheap, there still is inconsistency. And you're going to find that with any cheap Chinese knife. All right, one person may have a perfect example of it, and another person may have some slight problems with theirs. So expect this. Not everyone's going to be perfect, but across the board, it's good enough to be considered a good quality knife overall by most of the knife community. So anyway, all that being said, let's get into the knife. Here's the box that it came in, and like I said, this one is simply just marked B, Professional. But again, it's going to be one of the other markings of these knives. Even though the box just says B, of course the knife is marked Enlan, and the model, this is the EL-02. It's also on the box here. Now to to say to you, I'm going to do this knife review. But what I want you to note is that there's other models on here, other Enlan EL-02s online you're going to find. And the price you're going to see this for, mostly this exact one, is about 15 bucks. That's across the board. I've seen them on eBay. There's plenty of international sites. I think Alien Express has these too. Note there is another version of this Enlan EL-02 that sells for $17.95 most places. Okay, it's a little bit more. The difference is the G10 texturing is completely different. The texturing is much more aggressive on the more expensive version, and this one has a satin finish blade, whereas the $18 version has a stonewash blade. All right, I have no experience with that particular model, although people have told me that people who have both, they're identical. It's just a different finish, different texturing on the handle, different finish on the blade. So it's more of an aggressive, it kind of looks, it feels more aggressive from what I understand. Can't talk from personal experience, but feels more aggressive and looks kind of like a carbon fiber. It's a weird G10 texturing on there. But the other ones are stonewash, okay? So just, it's a little confusing because it's literally the same model, but you're going to find ones and you're going to say stonewash. Wait a minute, that wasn't stonewash, that was satin. So there you go. Hopefully that clears that up. So here is the cheaper $15 version of this knife. This is a fantastic knife. I mean, there's so much good to say about this. I'm going to cut to the chase and say the only thing I don't like about this knife, and the only thing you're not going to like about it either, because there's no reason why you might want this, but they have a Microtech-esque proprietary pivot screw. What am I talking about? What I'm talking about is Microtech is an amazing company, and I've always enjoyed their products. The one beef a lot of people in the knife community have with them is that they use proprietary screws So you either have to send it to them to get your knife adjusted or to be taken apart, clean, whatever, and they'll of course charge you for that. And or you're forced to buy these custom bits in order to take your knives apart, and in some cases they're $100 for the set. This is no different. This has this triangular type pattern here. That's the head on that screw, your pivot screw, and you see the back is the female. So there's no way to adjust this properly. You could go ahead and try to adjust this with pliers, and I'm sure you're going to mar it up. Because it's a $15 knife, I can almost guarantee that if you were trying to twist that metal, it's not going to be heat treated. It's going to, literally be too soft to turn improperly. You need the proper tool or bit to turn that. So that's a downside. That is really the only downside. And for $15, I would not be deterred by that. I would definitely say if you like the design overall, if you like what I have to say about the knife, I'm not the first person talking about this. This is a great knife, and all the other models of Enlan knives are great knives for the money. Keep in mind when you're buying a cheaper knife, you're not going to get what you expect out of a more expensive knife. Everyone's touting them as being great, and I too am in that boat. Yes, this is a fantastic knife. In the $15 range, it's amazing. Compare this to a $40, $50, $60 knife. Across the board, it might not, meet the standards. It's not going to be up to par compared to a lot of more expensive knives. So if you're used to, walking around with a Spyderco military or something like that, you might not be impressed with knives like this. However, if you're on a tight budget, or if you're just not into spending a whole lot of money, much money on knives in general, this is where it's going to be at for you. This is going to be the best bang for your buck, so to speak. Now, of course, there's a slew of cheaper knives out there. There's a lot of ones I always recommend and still like. I still like the Tenacious line. I love those knives. I still recommend the K-Bar Dozier line, all for different reasons. It really just depends on what you're looking for in a knife. This particular knife offers a lot. It's a little bit on the heavier side as far as cheap knives go. 4.5 ounces on this. It is fairly large in the hand. I don't know if you can really see this, but the overall length on this is 8.26 inches. Closed, we have a length of 4.73 inches, and our blade is 3.45 inches. And our blade is an 8 CR13 MOV, and it is marked on the rear, I believe, somewhere here on top, which is nice. All these knives from China and stuff like that, these international made knives, it's nice that they do mark the blades. That's something, even 5 or 6 years ago, you didn't see that at all. It was all a mystery. No one really knew what was going on. But these Chinese companies, they've stepped it up. They're working with the US companies in some cases, and they're trying to put out a product that at least is more acceptable by our community, by the consumers. We want to at least know what we're getting. We have no idea what the heat treat is going to be like or anything like that, but at least you have some kind of markings. The problem with that is that there's also companies in China that are not reputable, and they obviously do all kinds of counterfeit markings. They could slap S90V on here, and what do you have to go by? You're going by someone's word. When you get a knife from a reputable company and you see D2 on the blade, you believe that's D2. But trust me, not all of you, because there's certainly really hardcore knife guys out there, but generally speaking, if you're not like really into knives and you don't use them all the time, you may get a blade that says S30V, could say 440C, you wouldn't know the difference, would you? I mean, of course I'm talking to a select few people out there that aren't into knives as much as other people. You might not know the difference in the cutting performance, so it means nothing to you. Those numbers, for a lot of you guys out there, it doesn't mean anything for you. Really, it's really only for knife people. When you hear different types of blade steels, it means something to a knife person because we know a little bit more about the makeup of that steel, maybe how it performs from personal experience. If you use a bunch of knives that's 154 cm and you're looking at a new knife and you say, hey, 154 cm, you have a general expectation of how that blade might perform. All right, so that's why when people read off blade steels and different types of materials, that's why we kind of either get excited or dissuaded from certain models because of our personal experience with those types of materials. So anyway, I do trust that this is the 8CR13 MOV that it's claimed to be. And as I've talked to this before, performance, it's a lower grade steel, but still pretty decent performing. It's easy to sharpen, very easy to sharpen. So if you are new to sharpening, it's very forgiving. It holds a decent edge. To me, it's always been on par with like an AUS 8. Some of them are a little bit better than that, but anyway, pretty decent steel. As far as the blade shape, the first thing I thought of was Sebenza. I actually took out my small Sebenza here just to show you a comparison of the blades. Very simple design, very versatile. All right, so if you're looking for an EDC knife, this is not a specific hawkbill blade or some kind of tanto. It's not specific to one person's needs in a knife. This is a very versatile utilitarian style blade. You have a decent point, you have enough belly for slicing here, you have a very simple grind. It's like a 3/4 grind on here. It's also symmetrical. I know some people, they don't like all kinds of funky things. A lot of people hate chisel ground blades. Everyone likes different things, but this appeases the masses. It's not specific to one type of knife person, which is good. Versatility is always good. Versatility will sell. Sometimes plain is good. But anyway, in the hand, it's very ergonomic. You can see there's a couple little cutouts here, a little wavy action going on. Slight curve up here where the pointer finger goes. Not necessarily a choil, I wouldn't say. It's not deep enough to be, I think, considered a finger choil, but certainly a little cutout to rest that finger in there comfortably. Middle finger lands, you can see where it lands here. So there's another curve in here. This is not necessarily doing anything for ergonomics, but it's not hurting anything. And it's also a light enough point where if your finger does land on it, because I've gripped this different ways before, not really uncomfortable. So I don't consider this to be an uncomfortable knife in general. And I also think it's to be pretty versatile for different types of hands. As far as hot spots or anything like that, nothing that I can detect. We have a decently rounded corners. They're not super round or anything, but they're not squared off. There's no sharp edges anywhere on the handle. Where I did find it to be uncomfortable, ergonomically speaking, is the axis lock. I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. But let me move on to the pocket clip. Pocket clip on this worked perfectly fine. As you see, it comes in a tip up right hand carry position. As we flip it over, we'll see that it's not reversible. So lefties out there, you get stuck in the mud again, and you just have to kind of deal with it. I know that stinks for a lot of you out there. Lefties are the minority, but they're still people too, right? So you're gonna have to just deal with that, but you're used to that by now. The knife industry in general caters to the masses, not specific. Although some companies do make left-hand specific knives, which I think is really cool. All right, so it can be open right-handed or left-handed very easily. Also, because of the axis lock here, you can unlock it very easily left-handed as well. So I know a lot of lefties do prefer the axis lock models because a lot of other knives on the market that they may like are specific to right-hand use. So very friendly, very ambidextrous all around, except for the pocket clip. You do have a free flowing design here. Okay, just a couple standoffs, so it's not going to collect as much dust and lint and stuff like that from the pocket. You have full stainless liners, and it is cut out, which you can easily see in there. All right, both sides. You have 3 lightning holes on both sides. This is to reduce the weight, of course. It feels sturdy in the hand. That full steel lining is going to help with torquing. If you were to use this really hard and you're kind of twisting or something, you don't have to worry about your pivot area being weak or anything like that. So it does. You do have a benefit in that sense. As far as the hardware, Torx bits on the handles here, a little bit odd. You see, there's a flat head screw towards the top here, and the other ones are rounded heads. Not a big deal, just a minute thing that I noticed. I'd like to see just consistent hardware, but such a small detail, really doesn't matter. Does not affect functionality whatsoever. There is a lanyard hole in the back if you do, or if you are one of those types of people who likes to use the lanyards, whether it's for looks or for function. But the knife is big enough where I don't think you need a lanyard for functioning. You do have a full, nice 4-finger grip on this. Pocket clip, again, works great. It's just, it is where it is. If you don't like it, you can take it off, but you can't move it. All right, the jimping on the back is very, very comfortable, and it is very functional. It's not sharp where it's going to hurt, but it's not too smooth where it's doing nothing. It's right in the middle. It is the little baby bear in Goldilocks, okay? Not too hot, not too cold, it's just right. All right, now, the most important part, I think, on this review is the axis lock. The reason why someone may or may not want this knife is because they want an axis lock knife, but they don't want to pay the higher price tag you're going to pay, to get a Benchmade. I want to compare it to a full-size grip tooling here, just to give a reference for this axis lock. Okay, so here is a genuine axis lock, and here, of course, is the copy of that. The two things I noticed the most is comfort and spring tension. On the genuine Benchmade, it is much more comfortable to handle the axis lock, and I'm going to come in close to show you this. All right, those ridges, you see how it's a pyramid style where it's like steps, you know, each ring gets narrower to create a, you know, 3D effect, so you have something the meat of your finger can hold on to. And it's comfortable. You can see how dirty that is from usage. And I had no problems with that at all. With this one, although it's a similar design, it's mimicking that step system. It's a fresher cut. It's just not refined, and it's quite rough on my finger. What does not help this, it brings me to my second point, is that the spring tension is a lot stronger on the Enlan. It's easier to pull this down, okay, much easier. It's a weaker spring, but even though I say weaker, it sounds like a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. The Benchmade Access Lock has been proven. The Omega spring, they went through these issues with the first generation where it was one Omega spring, and now they double them up so they don't have any, you know, breaking problems. But the tension is perfect. It's fine. It's very comfortable to use. I find when playing around with this knife, which we all do, we play with our knives, we open them and close them all day long. Nothing wrong with that. It's a much heavier duty spring. It's harder to pull down. The combination of being a harder spring and being uncomfortable makes me not want to play with this knife as much as, say, the regular Griptilian. As far as you can see here, flicking it out, it's very, very smooth. In fact, when I disengage the lock, you can see this blade freely swings back and forth. So it's extremely smooth. All right, lockup is perfect, absolutely perfect. All right, so despite the heavier springs and the uncomfortable finish on the Access Lock, the button part itself, it locks up just as nice as a genuine Access Lock would. So overall, I have to say I am a huge fan of this Enlan knife. That being said, I'm looking forward to trying new ones in the future. In fact, there's other models I saw on eBay that are all in the $15 to $20 range, and there's some pretty cool, interesting designs. So I would say don't be shy and don't be you know, worried about getting a crappy knife. I think for the price tag, it's worth the gamble. And you know, I don't know, 9 out of 10 times you're going to be happy with these knives. For less than 20 bucks, I think you're getting a great knife. Again, compare that to other $15 to $20 knives. Generally speaking, since I've had the opportunity to, you know, diversify how many knives I'm able to handle, it's not all that in a bag of chips. Just because you comparing them to other knives, it just can't hold any water into the higher price brackets. But of course, that should be irrelevant. Price is something that's always considered. Overall, it's a great buy, and I wouldn't hesitate if you're looking at these. So it's definitely worth checking out. If you're a fan of the Sanren Mew knives, you know, do yourself a favor and get yourself an Enlan. All right. Basically, my only guideline to this is pick the ones that you think look cool. That's pretty much it. I will try to review more of them in the future, let you know if I have any specific issues, if I have ergonomic issues, but you know, generally speaking, the construction seems pretty straightforward, pretty good. Blade's been performing on par with everything else, you know, in its range and in its price range. It's a great buy. So that's pretty much all I have to say about it. It's an awesome knife. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. Of course, let me know your experiences with these Enlan knives in the comments section. And I'm always open to more suggestions. Something that happens quite often, it happens about 10 or 15 times every single day in messages. People will say, hey Jeff, can you review blank? And you can fill that blank in with anything. A backpack, a knife, a lighter, whatever. I always appreciate suggestions, but I'm only limited to what I have available to me. I wish I could just, you know, someone could say, hey, can you review this specific thing? And yeah, sure. And go get that specific thing and review it. Unfortunately, it's not how it works. I have to kind of just obtain things through trades, you know, or things on loan. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you soon. Take care.